Mark Rogers TV on college football, and if you're like me, you love to look at stats. So I look at all the box scores, as many as I can possibly get to each and every Saturday and Sunday in college football. And it hit me yesterday that maybe I'd start a segment each week in which I would review some of the odd statistics that I came across. I started it last week, but didn't record the segment. I compiled a ton of notes and should have gotten to it. So if you're a stats geek, if you're a nerd for stats like me, you may enjoy this segment, and hopefully if you respond to it favorably, we'll continue it for the rest of the college football season. Subscribe to my YouTube channel if you haven't. If you're coming across Mark Rogers TV for the first time, I need to really shoot a trailer and tell you the story of my experience, my background, and what we're trying to accomplish here at Mark Rogers TV. But it's basically this: produce quality college football analysis, content, previews, predictions, instant news analysis, and then to invite you to engage in the conversation, whether that's a debate about coaching strategies or predictions or analysis or whatever it is. This works when we get a lot of comments and suggestions and questions and engagement. So this is what I came across in the Big Ten for the Saturday of Week 10. Of course, the big one was Ohio State over Penn State 39-38, in which they came back from 15 down in the fourth quarter and 18 down earlier. During this game, J.T. Barrett became the all-time touchdown passing leader in the Big Ten, surpassing Drew Brees' record of 91. Now, J.T. Barrett earlier this season passed Drew Brees' all-time touchdown record running and passing. Now he has the all-time passing touchdown record of 91. JT went 33 of 39, hit on his last 16 passes, 328 yards, 4 touchdowns, no interceptions. He also ran it 17 times for 93 yards. Ohio State outgained Penn State 529 yards to 283. All the mistakes obviously kept Penn State in the game, and Penn State had 0 turnovers in the game. Ohio State 2. Saquon Barkley, great running back, the best all-purpose back in college football. Ohio State did more than contain him. They stopped him. He had a 36-yard touchdown run fairly early in the game. Overall, though, Saquon, 21 carries, 44 yards. Get this stat, maybe the stat of the week. In Saquon Barkley's last 9 carries against Ohio State, last 9 carries, did he have like 9 yards or 20 yards or something paltry like that? No. He had negative 17 yards. All right, Maryland over Indiana in a shootout, 42-39. Indiana in this game had 3 receivers who caught more than 10 passes each. Simi Cobbs with 10. Wap Pilyor had 13. I hope I pronounced his name correctly. I've seen Indiana play. Don't remember this kid, though. Luke Timian had 13 receptions as well. So, as we see many times in college football and in the NFL, the team with the big passing statistics lose the game because they probably turned it over more. They probably didn't have a running game going, and they were probably playing from behind. And in this one, Indiana completed 43 passes for 5 touchdowns. They lost again, 42-39. Indiana had 138 more yards than Maryland, 483 to 345. They had just about twice as many first downs, 35-18, and they held the football for 36 minutes to 24 for Maryland, but the Terps won the game. All right, Wisconsin stays undefeated. They defeated Illinois 24-10. Alex Hornibrook only threw 19 passes. That's the Wisconsin formula. He went 10 of 19. That is now 4 games in his last 5 outings that Alex Hornibrook did not have to throw the ball more than 20 times. That's the Wisconsin formula. We'll see if they can execute that against better teams down the stretch like Iowa, Michigan, and potentially Ohio State, probably in the Big Ten championship game. Wisconsin and Illinois total accounted for 589 yards in this game. You could look all over college football, especially in the Big 12, and find single teams that gained more yardage than those two teams combined. Go to the Washington State-Arizona game. This is all Big Ten right here. Hopefully I'll get to some other stats in other leagues in the next few days. All right. Big upset here. Not necessarily according to Vegas, but based on the standings. Northwestern over Michigan State, as we predicted here on Mark Rogers TV. 39-31 in triple overtime. Brian Lewerke, let's see, 39 of 57. That's not Mark D'Antonio's formula for a win. He actually threw only 2 less passes in this game, 57, than he threw in the previous 3 games combined. L.J. Scott, this is why Michigan State lost, had 8 carries for 16 yards. This is his worst game since mid-2016, about a year ago, against BYU, in which he had 3 carries for 9 yards. So that's roughly both anemic production out of L.J. Scott. It's also interesting if you go back to his highly productive freshman campaign in which Michigan State went to the college football playoff. He had one game against Michigan where he had 8 carries for 16 yards. That was the infamous botched punt snap. And then against Alabama in the 2015 college football playoff game, what was that, the Sugar Bowl? Whatever bowl game it was inside. L.J. Scott had 6 carries against the Tide for 8 yards as Michigan State, of course, fell behind late in the second quarter and had to go to the passing game. So those are L.J. Scott's worst games of his career. But in terms of yards and yards per carry, 8 carries for 16 yards against Northwestern. Meanwhile, Justin Jackson, who's one of the most productive backs in the history of the Big Ten, is unfortunately going to finish his career with his worst season as a senior. He had 17 carries for 41 yards against Michigan State. So he's got 603 rushing yards this season. Well, he's played 8 games. He only has 4 left. So with 4 games left, he's got 603 yards, and he's averaged well over 1,300 his freshman, sophomore, and junior seasons. Michigan down to Rutgers 35-14. Kind of a blowout, right? Well, it's actually a 57-point improvement for Rutgers. Of course, they lost to Michigan last year 78-0. In this game, Rutgers gained only 195 yards to Michigan's 471 and only had 9 first downs. Huge improvement, though. Even though Rutgers got dominated, remember last year, 2 first downs for Rutgers and 39 yards of total offense. All right, Purdue and Nebraska. Huskers win at 25-24. Jalen Robinson, though, for Purdue, had 6 tackles for loss. If you look through and follow defensive statistics, you know 6 tackles for loss is insane, and he had 2 sacks. And these were the first 2 sacks of Robinson's season. He's a senior. 2 sacks, 6 tackles for loss. Tanner Lee had career highs for Nebraska. He's kicked around Tulane in Nebraska for quite a while, but he posted highs with 32 completions and 50 attempts, 431 yards, all career highs for Tanner Lee. But most importantly, Tanner Lee has stopped throwing the ball to the other guys. In his first 155 attempts this season, Tanner Lee threw 9 picks. In his last 135 pass attempts, 0. Drew Brown of Nebraska kicked 4 field goals. He now has 57, and that ties Chris Brown for second most in Nebraska history. And finally, in the Big Ten, in a defensive struggle, as we anticipated, Iowa down to Minnesota for 17-10. Josie Jewell, who had missed the previous game, had 11 total tackles. Thomas Barber of Minnesota had 12. Demery Croft needs to play better for Minnesota. He's the better option over Connor Rhoda because he's mobile and can move around and seems to be just as good a passer. But in this one, 9 for 29. That drops his completion percentage on the season to 42%, 32 of 76, and that is just not good enough in today's college football. Mark Rogers TV with Big Ten stats for Week 10. I hope you enjoy the nerdy stats as we go through the box scores. Maybe I'll have time to dig up some going across the rest of the Power 5. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel, and we will talk and debate college football right here on Mark Rogers TV.